Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. I want you to think about this for just a moment. Think about your job. And it doesn't matter if you own your own company. Think about the culture of your job, your organization. What's that like? Really do some soul searching right now. What are you part of with your coworkers? What, if you're a leader of a company, organization, what are you transcending to them? What's your culture? Defines everything. And we're going to talk about that today. She is somebody that helps business leaders, teams, even companies create a culture, create leadership, and really move lives and also the bottom line forward. She's an amazing coach. Denise Krumlian joins us here in the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
Very well, very well. And the more I think about this in my circles, me personally as well, the culture is key to everything. And I always said, and it's a cliche, and I hate to go on cliches, but it starts at the top. It really does. You know, that person up there dictates everything below them, including the culture. So, how do we define culture?
Ooh, well, culture it's a feeling as well. It's what people do and it's how they do it. So within the organization. So it's usually a bunch of values also. So a lot of time there'll be some core values that the organization puts forward, and they might have some different sayings or core values that they have even put up on the walls that they want to have people live by. A lot of times, though, what happens is that people talk about it, but there's nothing to really help reinforce it. And so, whether that goes forward as the true culture or not, while it might be the best intentions, it really is, as you're saying, up to the leaders and also the teams. And so it can go bottom up as well as top down. So it's
Hmm.
really important that the whole organization is on board.
Would you say it's the values of a company?
I do. A lot of it is around the values for sure.
Hmm. So the first thing comes to mind. Can I share a friend
Yeah,
situation?
absolutely.
Somebody's very close to me, so I'm close to the situation and see and saw everything going on there. So she took some time off from her job, personal, major personal situation, went back to work and went back to doing what she was doing, totally different company. They told her from the first day, this it's always everybody will tell you what they're about in the beginning. So they clearly said to her when she went to the job interview, yeah, great that you're here. A lot of people, when they come for the, first meeting, they don't even come back after lunch. Well, that was a key. So
Yeah.
she just put that aside and she went for the training. And it wasn't really that great. She would tell me, I'm trying to figure this out. There, since I was, took a break for, about a year and a half, the little things have changed technologically connected, but that they're not really training me well. Then there came a point where they said to her, at this point, you should know everything. Don't ask us any questions.
Mm. Mm.
So she continued on with this, and there was a time where something was just not right, and it was on their end. She wasn't getting credit. She was doing medical billing. She wasn't getting credit, and there's a quota. And she reached out to them, and we told you don't ask us any questions. It turns out they were wrong. They were giving
Mhm.
her cases credit to somebody else, and time went on. She lasted 9 months and just left. And it was all about the culture. And I would even read the emails because she wanted me to see, is it me? Am I crazy? I'm like, no, it was a hard, and this is a major medical
Yeah.
company in the Northeast. That's all I'm going to say.
Mhm.
Um, and it just everybody was out, covering their butt. But that culture was disgusting in my view of how they treat their employees, and goes right back to the first thing she heard. Well, a lot of people leave after lunch and they don't
Yeah.
even continue on the first meeting. Um, Is this unlike stuff do you hear? Is this an anomaly?
No, unfortunately, no, which is why I'm so passionate about this topic because it
Mm,
really spends so much of our lives at our work, right? Wherever, even if we're living
yes.
working out of remotely, but that wherever we're working, that's so much of our life. And so if we're not aligned with the company culture, it can really do a lot personally to the individual that's working there as well. And you hit on a couple of key things, no growth, no support, having people not feel valued, not understanding maybe their purpose, like, why am I doing this? Right? All of those things are a part of what can degrade a company culture. And so on the flip side, it's what can we do as leaders to make it the best place for our employees? And what you just said was so critical about that's what I call they're leaders of things, not leaders of people. And
Oh, yes, that's key right there. And as you're saying that, I was actually thinking that. Like it was just we have
mhm,
robots working here. And I got another thought that the quotas that they gave her were unrealistic.
yeah.
Even in the best case scenario, you can't attain them. And I said to her, you know what? They're just raising the bar to push you to see if you can tell them it's impossible. I can't do this. Be
Right.
honest. And she did, and they actually started lowering it. But by then, the damage was done. Like she just couldn't continue, with the company.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't feel like they can, inquire even about that, or they don't have a say, or they can't change that. So they just try to live with it. And then the stress that comes from that it can be demotivating. People are not engaged. And then that's when the churn happens. So if people aren't coming back even after lunch, that should be a critical indicator that there's something wrong with the way they're going about
Hmm.
treating people.
We're talking negatively here, in general, but it is
The
reality.
problems. Mhm.
Now let's look at it in a positive way at
Mhm.
those companies that we all know that have a great culture. First one that comes to mind, Google.
Mm.
That started over a decade ago, where and a lot of people at first looked at it like, what the heck is going on there? They have video games, pinball machines in the lobby. They have childcare. They offer this. They offer that. Well, that's a great culture. They care about their employees. They want them to be happy. You have kids, you want to come to work? Yeah, we have daycare on site. For me, that was kind of a game changer back in the day of in
Mhm.
terms of a culture. Um, your thoughts on that and maybe other companies, things that you've heard?
Yeah, I think that from overall, the idea of supporting the people is what comes first. And how different companies do that, it depends again on what's going to work for them. So maybe the pinball machine and the fancy coffees and things of that work for some.
Sure.
However, what we're finding is a lot of times it's about the intrinsic value. That people feel value, they feel that they understand their purpose, they feel like they're making a difference and they're fulfilled in their work. That's what people are really wanting. And part
Mm.
of that is connection. And so that's where it's really important that leaders make the true connections with their people and understand that because everybody's motivations could be different. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just more money, more money. And
Yeah.
while money is important, it's really there's so much more that people are looking for than just the money.
I'm glad you said that because there's surveys that continually come out that illustrate that, where people, yeah, the money's important, but it's not everything. They would rather feel valued than a few extra bucks. And then now, flip it over again here, where some companies will say, "Yeah, we're going to throw you a great lunch. It's going to be fantastic. There's going to be, trays of ziti and all of this." And if you actually ask the employees, they would tell you, "We don't want to do that. That's not, it's not
Mhm.
appreciated." But at
Yeah.
that point, if you're going to do that, just throw an extra 25 bucks in my check and I'd be
Mhm.
happier. Again, it's not about the money, but I give those companies some credit for doing something to show they care, but maybe they should just ask.
Exactly. It's so important. Ask. And that's what a leader can do right now. Like if somebody takes away one thing from this today, it's that they have the power to ask their team or even their boss, right? What motivates them, and they can tell their boss what personally motivates them too, because that may help them to make a better connection. And so, if, for instance, I had an employee once that it was really clear with me that having personal time with his family was the most important thing. And so knowing that, I really tried to be supportive of protecting his time outside of working hours. And so we worked together. If there had to be something that he had to do, we would try to find a way so that he felt more harmony and balance in his life, and he didn't feel like he was being taken away from his family too much. And that meant more to him because he knew
Mm.
that I was looking out for him and his family.
How do you begin? So company reaches out to you. Let's say they're being honest. Yeah, people are leaving. It's hard to find. That's another one. It's hard to find good people. Why? I don't know. I ask why. Why do you go into some restaurants? I'm gonna go here. Why do you go into some restaurants and there's no staff? What the
Hmm.
blank is going on? There's no,
Hmm.
you can't get any. I went into a place last night, little small place in town. Maybe I go like twice a year. I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt the vibe.
Yeah.
I felt a sense of, I'm getting chilled. I felt a sense of ownership from the employees, from the little features. Hey, we're going nostalgia week. We're going to be streaming old shows. We're going to be doing this. And you could tell by the handwriting that it was the staff lovingly. And there was even above, instead of dotting the I, there were hearts. And even the way the staff came over and you felt like they were appreciated because they appreciated me and my
Hmm.
guest and everybody there. They had tons of staff. There wasn't a lot of people in that restaurant. And I believe it's because they're treated well and made to feel that they're vested. They have ownership in the place. Wonderful
Hmm.
vibe. I'm going back. Going back.
Hmm. Yeah.
It, it's it, it's
They
it's
feel
the culture,
valued. They
the
feel
value.
valued,
Yeah.
and they know their purpose probably. They know what they're not they're when we call them, a server or waiter, or whatever the term is that they use, right? It's not about just that they're serving food. Maybe they're looking at it as we're getting to provide an experience for the people that come in.
Yep.
And so they understand that this person's not paying just for food, they're paying for this experience. That's why they're here versus another restaurant. And so
Hmm.
the owner possibly has done something to help them to feel that, and that can elevate the employee's experience as well.
It goes back to something I'm a big proponent of, believer in, and I want to hear your take on it. Energy. We're all energy. And
Hmm.
I felt the energy in this little tiny restaurant. And there was tons of restaurants around. But interestingly, this one had the vibe going on. And as soon as I stopped and we looked at the menu, I'm like, why don't you want to go? We went there last time. Maybe, yeah, let's go. Whatever. Um, Something drew me in.
Yeah.
It was just even the people, the woman standing at the podium. She just something about her. It was like, yeah, I want to go. Oh, someone's like, you will come here.
Hmm.
It's the energy. Do you believe that that's what's going on here?
Completely. I completely believe in that positive energy and it's the law of attraction to some extent, right? What you put out, you get back. And so if, again, starting with the leader, if the owner of the shop was helping to create that energy, the people feel the energy, they create that for the people that are the customers. And so it becomes this reciprocal thing. And then you give out better energy, and so they get something from that. And so it is a positive dance.
Mm. I made one error last night and I see it now. I didn't say something, and they usually do. And I think I was just so blown away. I deal with it. It was like so what a rare experience. But um, the server and the others there, I should have said, you guys are doing a great job. What a nice little vibe going on here. Right down to the music you're playing, which was like, it almost didn't fit a younger crowd. And I don't know
Mhm.
why they were playing it, but it was like kind of funny. Like it was like old disco music. It was like weird,
Mhm.
but it was like, yeah, it's kind of cool to hear that song. Remember that song? There was just something there. But there we go. Back to the culture.
The best way you can support that though is to just go back again or just
Sure.
send a review or whatever, right? And so big companies too, that's what they want. They want repeat customers, right? So it doesn't matter if it's the restaurant or if it's a large Fortune 100 company. It's at the end of the day, you're either selling a product or a service and you want your customers to have an excellent experience. And so it starts with the people making sure that they have an excellent experience so that they can, do whatever they need to do in the company to make the company successful. So that's where this whole framework that I really would love to continue talking about over the next, few
Sure.
episodes is really, I call it the culture of and, because it's not about just being a culture of, leaders that are focusing on things. And it's also not just a company where the leaders just focus on the people. It's an and. It's about the people and having them understand their purpose and their performance results. And so, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do, but at the highest level, it's really about that connection that we've been just talking about. It's
Hmm.
about compassion, which is different than empathy a little bit, which I'd love to talk about more. And
Hmm.
then it's also about commitment. So that's where, are people clear in their expectations? Are they bought in? Are they in
Hmm.
agreement? Do they know how to do that? Do they have what they need to succeed? All of those things.
Hmm. What's the most important, or what's the starting point for all of this? We identified, compassion, empathy, all of this, and they all seem important to me, but what would be the starting point if you have a company, or maybe you work for a company and you want to make a suggestion, where would be the first thing you would look at?
Or if I'm looking at it from the leader perspective or from the employee
Let's go with the
perspective.
leader.
Okay.
Let's say I want everybody to be happy. I want to have a great company that people talk about. I want to change this culture.
hmm
What's the first thing I do?
From a leader perspective,
Hmm.
asking questions is key, but it's also looking introspectively. It's how am I showing up as a leader? What am I doing, not doing? What's the being part, right? So it's not even just doing, but what's the energy that I'm putting out, whether or not it's verbal or nonverbal? Am I walking my talk? Am I, all of those things, and doing some introspection is one of the pieces. If I'm the owner of the company, it's what do I want from the overall experience of this company and being super clear on that what.
Mm,
And then why?
mm,
Why is that important? And then being able to articulate that to all of the leaders that work with you so that they can also, because how that happens is that's the micro cultures that we were talking about last time a little bit. It's really about understanding everybody being aligned on the what and the why so that they can then, if there's a strategy, they're clear on that too, but then they can just move forward with making it happen in their way that they need to based on their roles.
so what I'm getting here is expectations is key,
Mhm,
clearly defined, and I don't want to use this cliche, but be real. Because I've
mhm,
been, the company that I talked about last time. One thing the leader who wasn't, and wasn't me. Everybody would say, well, he's not the best. Tried to be, wanted us to believe it, but he would even say, I want you to feel like you're vested here. You put your signature on it. Blah 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 blah.
mhm.
Great to say it, wasn't true,
Yeah.
and you knew it. You you smelled it, you felt it. It wasn't
And
true.
that's and those are morale busters, right? When somebody says something, but then
Yeah.
they don't follow up or they don't do what they say they're going to do, or they say that how you do something is as important as what the result is, but then they don't recognize that how piece as much. Like all of those things can really impact the morale and then the engagement and the how long you keep your employees as well.
Do you feel that culture is the most important thing, good culture, assumably, the most important thing that a company can have for productivity and moving forward?
Culture is the umbrella. There's a
Okay,
lot of pieces about it, and
sure.
that's where breaking it into those three parts of commitment, compassion, and connection really matter, because the commitment is around those metrics and the goals and everything, and making sure that there's alignment in the strategy and all that. The compassion is around both personally for the leader themselves and the team, is like having grace sometimes when things maybe don't go right, having a culture of continuous improvement instead of just like feeling like they're going to be reprimanded, right? So taking fear out of it, right? Everybody's there to do a job. So
Mm,
it's about how do you help them to continuously improve and support them even when things haven't gone the right way. And then that starts with the connection, which is around trust and building that trust.
mm. You said the F word, fear. And
Mm,
right away, the individual I was talking about, everybody feared going into that office, even though it was said, my door's always open, come in here anytime. We had a fear. We had a fear
yeah.
of going in, what we were going to be confronted with, what was coming our way, whatever it might be. And it was not a bad person, just didn't have the skills that we're talking about here. I wish we had more time because I'm intrigued about compassion versus empathy. I'm trying to
Mm.
get that. I'm trying to get my arm around the difference between both. Um, can you explain it briefly, or is that something that we really need to take more time on?
The simplest way, and then yes, it's a yes, and we can take more time next time, but the simplest way that I define it is empathy is like you can understand what somebody's feeling, or at least can relate to it. Compassion is when you are compelled to take action. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the doer and fix it for them, but it is that you're supporting them with solving the problem or whatever it is that they're feeling. So
Okay.
that's really the difference at the highest level that I look at.
So, do you need to have empathy before you can have compassion?
I'd say yes, yeah, you need to be able to relate, because that's the relatability
Mm,
is a critical thing. So that's why a lot of times you'll see things about empathic leaders and you must have empathy. So yes, that is important. And as a leader, it's also important though that your job is to help your team be successful.
One of the reasons I asked that was I recently did a strength assessment test. I don't know if I
Ah,
shared that with you.
no.
Okay. It was the Clifton.
Yes. Hmm.
34, strengths it identifies. I'm on the board of the Girl Scouts and they wanted all of us to do this.
I
So
love it.
I'm like, honestly, I'm going to be very honest. Day before the retreat that we're going to have, I'm laying in bed. I'm like, oh, I got to do this thing. All right. I'm in, yeah, I just, go through all the questions, 30 minutes, kind of rapid fire. Uh,
Mhm.
honestly, I didn't take a lot of stock in this thing. I was like, man, let me just do this. When it came back, whoa. And my number one strength, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Number one strength was communication. All right, no brainer. Been doing, broadcasting literally since I was a teenager.
Mhm.
Literally paid, 17 I started. Number two strength, kind of surprised me, was empathy.
Mm.
And I'm the one that tells everybody else, you're an empath. You realize that you're an empath. All I was doing was pointing at me.
Mhm.
For me, it's a good thing, but it can be a curse as well.
Yeah.
Um, but then some of the other strengths like competitiveness was low on the list. So I almost feel a little wounded. Like, what? I'm not competitive. Really? And I have to read deeper into it because they break it
Yes.
down what each thing is.
That's a
Um,
very valuable tool, and a lot of companies use things of that nature as well. And it's
yeah,
great for individuals, especially if they're in a transition period. That can be a really great tool to use either to validate, like for you, it was a validation,
yeah.
or it can help open your eyes to something else that you hadn't thought about.
100%. Well, it opened my eyes to empathy. It
Yeah.
really did, and explains why, lots of stress. And I've minimized
Mhm.
that, but it's because I worry about others and all of that.
I
And
need one as well.
are you seriously?
I get
Well,
it.
I'm going to say that's why you're great at what you do because you feel it.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
as opposed to, many leaders, they're not feeling it. They want you to think they are, but they're not truly feeling it. And I agree with the empathy versus compassion. You need to feel it And that's great. But unless you take action, you fell short. Then the compassion, what am I going to do about it? I see you're dealing with a situation. I got you. Here's what we can do about it. And it's not like,
Or just ask, what can I do to help you? Right.
sure.
So it's not always for the leader to solve, is to support. And that's
Yeah.
the thing I have a joke about as a leader. My job was to be the weed whacker, clear the path, right? So that the team could move forward. And so if there was a problem, I wanted to clear the path. Sometimes though, it was more empowering to say to the team, what do you need? Because
Mm,
maybe they didn't need me to clear the path. Maybe they needed me to actually get out of the way. And
mm.
and so asking the questions can be really helpful.
Thanks for saying that. And I believe it comes with the parent inside of us where I'll fix it for you, where you're enabling. And no, you figure it out. Here's I'll give you what you need. Now you figure it out. Great talking with you today. We're out of time. Keep going. There's like so
I
many
know, I can't
different
believe it so fast.
layers and levels to get to. How does somebody reach out to you, Denise, if they just want to even start a conversation? Maybe they're feeling that their company isn't where it needs to be, and that this has resonated even just at the starting point. What do they do?
Absolutely. Yeah, the easiest way is to just connect with me on my website, denisekrumlian.com. I have a contact page there. You can schedule a discovery call, complimentary discovery call for 30 minutes. Or I also have a place where you can just write to me and just let me know what your problem is, and we can try to figure out how the best way is to solve it together.
For sure. It's not all about a raise and a tray of ziti. Okay. There's a lot more going on there. Always great talking with you. And thanks for being here. Looking forward next time we get together.
Thank you. Same here.
Appreciate it.
Have a good
We'll be
day.
right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.